Hello and welcome to the Arise interview, where we take time to reflect on the big stories from the news and on the fortunes and affairs of the world in an hour of conversation with commentators, analysts and thought leaders. I'm Charles Aniagolo. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, the approaching 2023 presidential election in Nigeria has been made even more unusually exciting by the growing agitation for a Nigerian president of Igbo extraction. It's an issue that's taken center stage once again after the governor of Ebonyi State in the southeast, David Umahi, announced that he was defecting from the People's Democratic Party, the party that's dominated politics in the southeast since 1999, to the ruling All Progressives Congress, President Buhari's party that is yet to gain such a foothold in the region. Coming from such an influential politician as Governor Umahi, who's also the chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum, it's being seen as a big blow to the PDP. But what impact is it likely to have on the agitation for a Nigerian president of Igbo extraction in 2023? We'll speak to the governor himself, David Umahi, coming up. Now, as you may know, in Nigeria, it's common for politicians to switch parties and to flip their support the other way, often when it suits their personal need or ambition. But even by this country's standards, Governor David Umahi's defection from the opposition People's Democratic Party, or PDP, to the ruling All Progressives Congress, or APC, is being seen by many as a staggering U-turn, having won the governorship election twice on the PDP's ticket. The reason given by Governor Umahi for dumping the PDP is that the party had been unfair and unjust to the people of the southeast in return for years of loyalty, and that his departure was a protest against marginalization after repeated calls for the presidential ticket in 2023 to be zoned to the southeast apparently fell on deaf ears. But his critics insist that Governor Umahi's defection has taken place for personal reward, and that his new allegiance to the APC is driven rather selfishly by the promise of a presidential ticket, an allegation that Governor Umahi vehemently denies. Well, in a moment, we'll speak to Governor Umahi himself. But first, here he is at a media briefing in Abakaliki, the capital of Ebonyi State, giving reasons why he left the PDP.
Why am I moving to APC? Some people say I was promised this and that. There was no such discussion. APC never promised me any position. They never promised Southeast any position. There was no such discussion. However, I offered this movement as a protest to injustice being done to Southeast by PDP. That since 1998-99, the Southeast people have supported PDP in all elections. At the time, the 5 states were all PDP. And one of the founding members of PDP is from Southeast. The late Vice President, His Excellency Alex Ebonyi. And so, it is absurd that since 1998, going to 2023, that Southeast will never be considered to run for presidency under the ticket of PDP. It's very absurd. And this is my position, and will continue to be my position. It has nothing to do with me. And if people are shouting in this country of fairness, equity, and justice, and I stand in a place where such is not practiced, then I have to, re-examine my head. People can write all that they want to write. It's not my business. In 2023, if God permits, I'll be quitting politics, and I'll be very satisfied.
That's David Umahi there. Well, let's take you straight away to Government House in Abakaliki and speak to the governor of Ebonyi State, David Umahi. Thank you very much indeed, Governor Umahi, for joining us. I hope you can hear me loud and clear there.
I do, please.
Right. As most Nigerians know, Governor, the Southeast region has always been the bedrock of the PDP, and your contention is that for all that support, the Southeast has not been commensurately rewarded by the PDP, so you decided to defect to the APC, even though the Southeast is not as well represented in the APC. I mean, did this decision happen suddenly, or have you been planning to defect for a while?
Oh, thank you very much. I can't say it happened suddenly. In 2015, when His Excellency Atiku Abubakar was to fly the ticket of PDP, the opinion of the Southeast people is that he was going to do, one, tenure if he won. And it was not publicly discussed, but I tasked Ohaneze that they should send delegation to find out from him if he was going to do a tenure, so that it would be the turn of Southeast. And in one of the meetings with His Excellency Abubakar Atiku and the governors in Port Harcourt, I asked him this question, sir, are you going to run for one tenure? He didn't answer that question. We left it there. So it was not something that I suddenly decided, but our people felt that in that 2019, which the decision to zone that ticket to the north was agreed, 2015 against 2019, it was the feeling of the Southeast people that it was their turn. But circumstances and situation made them to agree to support a candidate from the north, with the opinion that that candidate, should he emerge victoriously, that he was going to do one tenure. And so when things started unfolding from 2019 to date, and I read the handwriting on the wall, and I started warning. First was the plan to remove all the working committee. Notwithstanding that the working committee is just a tool in somebody's hand, and if that person asked them to move forward, they will move. But the person was also not satisfied with them, and they was willing to sacrifice them. But I can say that the working committee people worked, even though they are not, they have no freedom to decide anything on their own, and that is very dangerous for me. And should these people that have worked hard be removed, there was no way Southeast would be considered. And so we started agitation, about 6 months back. We had meetings and all kind of stuff, and then it dawned on me that the permutations and combinations would not favor Southeast. That Southeast would not even be allowed to even do vice presidential candidate of PDP. And so I decided to let them know, should we not decide on where this ticket of PDP would go, that I would not continue to support PDP.
Well, according to the PDP, Governor, they said that initially you addressed your concerns to them, and according to them, many concerns have been raised about many issues, including the question of Igbo presidency, and the party was in the process of addressing those questions, but had not taken any decision before you left.
The way they were sounding in the course of our negotiation was, clear evidence that they were not going to do that. But, nothing has gone wrong. I'm just, one person, with, 99% of Ebonyans By tomorrow, there will be no PDP in Ebonyi State. And I won't tell you what will happen in Southeast, but they can arrest the situation immediately by having neck and openly and honestly zoning the ticket to Southeast. Whether Southeast will vie in PDP and win is a different ballgame altogether. But fairness and equity and justice, which PDP has been crying about, demands that if other regions have been given the opportunity, Southeast, that has always been supporting PDP, should be given the opportunity.
If that opportunity was to be given to the Southeast, would you return to the PDP?
Mr. Trump would say time will tell. I'm in APC, and there is no if in it. If they have the courage to do that, I'm sure that APC is a fairer party. I'm sure that APC will also want to do the same. And, it becomes a win-win affair, just like sometimes we did in the West, when Falaye and Olusegun Obasanjo, flew the tickets of, the two major political parties. And so it became very clear that the nation at that time, was very much willing and very eager and interested in addressing certain wrongs meted to that region. And I think that the opportunities, are created by these two major political parties. It will bring greater progress and unity and prosperity for the nation Nigeria.
But I mean, Governor, would you say that by not sticking with the party that you were with for many years and that made you what you are politically today, gave you the governorship platform that you now have, that you are choosing a much less certain path by going or joining the APC?
When people say PDP made me what I am, that is absolute rubbish. We made PDP what PDP is. It's the party, people that make the party. And I've contributed so much in making of PDP, not the other way around. I've been a peacemaker, I've been a negotiator, and even the governor of Edo State coming on board, it was my prophecy, which, my fellow governor directed the working committee to come and prove me. In humility, I submitted, but that was a big minus for them because you don't prove a sitting governor. Another one is the PDP wants me to be castigating Mr. President. I have no any other boss other than Mr. President. And by my culture and my upbringing in my family, you do not insult the elders. So it's not in my character. And some of them speak rubbish in the day, and in the night, they are caps in hands, and they start going up and down. I don't do like that. I live one single life. So Mr. President remains my boss, my father, my friend, and I have no regret about that. And he's been very fair to those who criticize him and those who don't, and that's why he's a father. So I'm happy doing what I'm doing.
I mean, I'm sure you know, Governor, that President Buhari has been regularly vilified in the press for appearing to abandon the policy of federal character and directing many of his appointments allegedly disproportionately to the northern region where he comes from. For instance, 17 out of Nigeria's 20 service chiefs appointed by Mr. Buhari from the north, while 16 are Muslims like himself. I mean, that suggests that he doesn't trust people from other parts to hold command positions. Do you think Mr. Buhari has mismanaged diversity, as former President Olusegun Obasanjo accused him of?
I'm not Mr. President, so I cannot speak for him. So Mr. President is alive and is well and hearty. So I believe that you can direct that question to Mr. President.
But I mean, just to push that point further, Governor, even Wole Soyinka, the Nobel laureate, shares a similar view and has made reference to what he called a culture of sectarian privilege and will to dominate in Nigeria. I mean, in those circumstances, how can you justify crossing over to Mr. Buhari's party, the APC, as a way of redressing the perceived lack of an Igbo president?
You are misunderstanding this. My problem is with PDP, the party. There is a saying in our place that says that where you walk, that's where you shop. That's why we have workshop. And so you cannot, wash your body in Sokoto and you start going to, Enugu to collect your address. My position is that this PDP we are talking about, I don't know about APC. APC in 2023 would have stayed 28 years. It is very obvious that we have not really supported APC in Southeast. But I'm talking about a place, the home, the community, that we have supported. We are part of the founding, members of it. In fact, our, elder statesman, Alex Ekweme, His Excellency, was the major breakthrough, for the birth of this PDP. And I'm saying, what is wrong? Don't we have anybody that since 1998 going to 2023, we cannot be asked to fly the ticket? It's an insult on the collective sense of the Igbos. It's very, very insulting. And nobody is talking to me to stay back that has been able to convince me. What is wrong by convening a NEC meeting to say, yes, we are talking of justice. Let us give Southeast, the opportunity. Whether we win or not, other people have been given opportunities and they did not win. But it will be on record. And I'm sure that you love to compete with your peers. There is nobody, when decision is being taken, the Southeast will not be consulted. The affairs of PDP in Southeast is being conducted outside Southeast, And somebody was talking, my good friend, I refuse to join issues with Wike, because Wike is my friend. But Wike must know that he's a dictator. Wike must know that, one person cannot be called a crowd. And Wike must know that a lot of governors in PDP are very sad with him. He remote controls the party, and he said that I made my brother the vice chairman of PDP Southeast. I fund the Southeast, PDP from A to Z. And he has forgotten that, he single-handedly made Secondus the PDP chairman. He has forgotten that he wanted to also impose, one of his own as the minority leader in the House of Rep. He must know that there is nothing that happens in PDP without his authorization. He must know that he said that the PDP working committee members are beggars and the, armed robbers and the bribe takers. He has called them all kinds of unprintable names. And I have asked Governor Wike, who is my friend, so much. Let's not take on ourselves, because it will be very dangerous for us to take on ourselves. So let us face the party. The party does not belong to him. And this is by no means personal. And he's demonstrating the dictatorship tendencies in him by taking on me, a fellow governor. And that is very shameful. So the truth remains that we are talking about injustice in a place we would have stayed 23 years in 2023. And so we are not yet talking about APC. It is somebody you have worked for so much that you deserve to collect your stipends. And that is what we are talking about. When we move to APC, we will be talking to them. As we support them, we'll be asking them, treat us like you are treating other zones. And that is equity, fairness, and justice. And I think it will be achieved.
Well, you made some very interesting points there, and I have to say that obviously Governor Wike is not here to respond to some of the things you've said about him, but he's obviously has a right to reply, and Arise News will be ready to give him that right of reply. But I mean, you were talking about the PDP You are the chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum. Did you consult with the other governors in the Southeast before arriving at the decision to defect from the PDP to the APC? Because perhaps it might have been better as a collective rather than a single decision.
Every governor is autonomous. By the way, I'm not going to talk with Wike in this platform. If you're bathing and you put your clothes by the side and the madman comes and they takes your clothes and you come out naked and start chasing him, we have a different gift and destiny, so I'm not going to engage him at all. I maintain he's my friend, but he should be careful how he talk about a sitting governor. He's very fond of that. So I consulted myself, I consulted my family, I consulted, my leaders, Ebonyi people, and we collectively took that decision. I don't need to disenfranchise other states. And I said I will not fight PDP because this is a house I was part of building. So it will be unethical for me to, start talking to other governors of Southeast, lobbying them to join APC. It's up to them. They're all mature, very performing, wonderful brothers of mine, Southeast PDP governors. So it's up to them.
Well, I mean, since we're moving, Governor, along this post-mortem track and looking back at what's happened in the PDP, let's talk about the last presidential election and the Peter Obi factor and your role in his selection as vice presidential candidate in the PDP and allegations that you worked against him. What do you have to say about that?
You shouldn't have asked that question because you should have availed yourself with the result, in Ebonyi State. I championed the crusade that the entire Southeast, in all the states, that they should give Mr. President 25% of the votes, and I have no regret saying that. And we achieved that in Ebonyi. We achieved that in Imo State, and we achieved that in Abia State. Unfortunately, we did not in Enugu and Anambra State. What happened was that I was never against the PDP or the vice president. I'm a man of character. All I said was we will give 25%. So we did give 25%, and the rest 75% went to Alhaji Atiku, whom I respect so much. And I believe strongly that even in Adamawa, 75% was not made for PDP. And so if all the states of the Federation made 75%, I'm sure that His Excellency Atiku would have been the president. So I have no regret doing that. I have no regret coming out openly to say that. And we are not the first region to do that. Other regions have been doing that. Now, what seems as if we had issues was that when we agreed to make Secondus the chairman of the party, we agreed in the same venue that the Southeast would fly the vice presidential ticket. And that when it is time to select, that the governors of Southeast would come together and nominate somebody. Of course, I was not going to be nominated because I had just done my first tenure, and definitely I must do my second tenure for the stability of Ebonyi State. But this decision was jettisoned. No governor from Southeast was there. No person from Southeast was there. And a decision was taken, and the vice presidential candidate, eminently qualified, was chosen. And we said, look, it doesn't matter that you've chosen one of our best, but you should have consulted us. You should have kept the bargain. And that's the only thing we said. So my fellow governors were not happy when that announcement was made, and they thought that I had handled it. All I said was that the leaders and myself were never consulted. So that was a very serious mark of betrayal on the side of Southeast. But we thank God that they chose one of our best, and I still support that it's still one of our best. We have other best, as listed by my House of Assembly members and PDP, executives here. And they can look at any of those ones and choose one. Let him fly the flag. Our people will love it. Our people will support them.
I won't even tell you that if they give that ticket, that many Ebonyi people, irrespective of our new party, will not support them. So let them do that.
You made a very interesting point there about consultations, and you mentioned earlier that you consulted widely across Ebonyi State. Presumably you also consulted other politicians within the state, because I mean we're hearing today that members of the National Assembly, the Ebonyi sort of groups in the National Assembly, the caucus, are saying that they will not be joining you in defecting to any other party. And in fact, it was a former Governor, Sam Egwu, who led that caucus disclosure. What do you have to say about that?
Time will tell, because again, time will tell. I consulted the National Assembly members. They all agreed to join. Only Dr. Sam Egwu has said we should pray about it the more. And that's all, so I want to leave it there. But go and mark today, and I have said that time shall tell.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. Let me move to the party that you have thrown your sort of towel in with, if you like. Can you confirm reports flying around that the APC has taken a decision to field a presidential candidate from the Southeast in 2023? I mean, and were you offered that presidential ticket?
How will you know about the house you have not entered? I'm still outside the house. You know, when I enter the house, I will know. But I want you to know that my moving to APC is not because they will give it to Southeast or they will give it to me. I don't ever, you know, fight for myself. I'm a pencil in the hand of God, and you know, it doesn't matter, you know, what anybody says. I stay within the limit of my calling. So I'm protesting against injustice by a political party, and that's where it ends.
I'm curious, Governor, because I'm just wondering why you would move from a party where you've got much larger representation and considerably greater influence to a party that you really say that you don't even belong to and that you're planning to get into, and there are no guarantees at all that you're likely to make a much bigger difference. I mean, wouldn't it have made more sense to stay within the PDP where you've got considerably more influence and try and change things within the party?
You do not understand that you do not stay at the comfort zone when your people are being marginalized and maltreated. And you have to understand that protest is constitutional. And people do not protest because they are not comfortable in that place, but they protest because some of the people within them, you know, around them and within them are not comfortable. And so I protest because the Southeast people are being maltreated in Southeast. So it's all about protest. And if it doesn't yield result today, it will yield result tomorrow.
Well, that's fair enough, but what if the APC fails to zone the presidency to the Southeast? I mean, how much of a blow will that be for your efforts and for your defection?
It depends on what you're thinking. If I'm going to APC because they must zone the presidency to Southeast and they fail to do that, that's where it will become a blow. When you protest, you know, you protest. The youngsters that were protesting, they were not protesting from the comfort of their zones. They were protesting because of brutality that meted to other people. And so I'm not protesting because, you know, APC must do this or do that. I'm telling PDP, look, you must put your house in order. You must be fair to all. That is just the message. And the message is very important. If APC, Southeast, you know, supports APC and they stay, you know, 23 years in APC and they fail to zone, you know, presidency to them, that's where you have a ground to also protest and to agitate, you know. But now, you don't really have, you know, the mouth as a party to insist that they must zone it. But if you look at the mood of the nation, I believe strongly that, the APC, and I want you to check the running of APC party and that of the PDP. In APC, even though the president is the leader of the party, he does not remote control the party. But one or two persons are remote controlling PDP. I cannot belong to such a party. I cannot do that, So that is the issue. You've been trying to, railroad me into accepting what is not a reality. If the APC fails to, and I've told you that I am only protesting against the injustice of one particular political party, and I'm not doing it because there is a promise made to me or made to Southeast. No, we are moving to build another platform, and where God is the leader, and where God will lead the party into justice, equity, and fairness.
Well, I'm not trying to railroad you into anything. I actually find you to be a very articulate, very interesting politician. But what I'm curious to know, though, Governor, is you're moving to the APC without any guarantees, according to what you've told us. That means that you may well be in the APC and find that they're not zoning anything to the southeast. I mean, would you, in those circumstances, support a northern candidate in the APC?
When we get to the bridge, we shall cross it. This country, is in the hand of God. No man dictates, what happens. When we sleep, we are at war with that. It's only the good Lord that wakes up the winner. And so no man can rightly say what happens tomorrow. No man will say, this is where we must zone this is what we must do. And I think there is a need for everybody in this country to put if. And that if is if God permits. This is very important. And so sometimes people talk as if they saw God. Like my colleague friend said, this is my Waterloo. What do you mean by this? Did you see my destiny? Are you my destiny helper? Did you see God? Did you see tomorrow? And I think we are already in our destinies. And this is very important. So I say people should stop talking as if they are God. This is very, very bad. Humility is very important. And to defer to God with that if is also very key in the life of every human being. Nobody knows who will be alive in 2023. But I've made a mark. And the mark is that I offer myself as a sacrifice. If I perish, I perish. You must take a risk in life. If you win, you reign. If you lose, you also learn. It's arrow and L. These are the two things that demarcate the risk taking. And so I have no quarrels. And I've told you here that in 2023 after the election, that if God permits, I would like to resign from politics and then continue with my business. I'm a happy man what God has done in Ebonyi State. I'm a happy man the way God has blessed me in life. I'm a happy man and a very successful family man. So I have nothing to lose. My curve is already on the downward, side. And so one day we must depart this world. So everything is not about politics and power and wealth and money. We must sometimes in our life begin to reflect about the affairs of others, how we can affect others. These are some of the reasons some of us were born. I think I was born as a sacrifice, to help humanity. And this is what I'm doing, and no regrets.
Well, I mean, I'd very much like to talk in a moment about your achievements in Ebonyi State. But just before we do that, there is, of course, the godly realm and the human realm. And in the human realm, politicians like yourself and many others hold sway. So, I mean, I'm wondering, there's been a lot of talk about you, from your former party members and so on, about you being a Buhari man. Did President Buhari play any role in convincing you to move to the APC?
Mr. President is an upright man. He's a gentleman. He never called me and lobbied me to move over to APC. Never. Our relationship has been that of the boss, and his subject, and that of a father and a son. and in a larger spectrum, the friend of the president. And I can also tell you that Mr. President has been very much fair to all the governors, irrespective of party affiliation. So this is where I leave it. But I love the man. And it is very important for people to get closer to the man, to understand the man, that Mr. President has character. Mr. President has character. You see, governance is quite a very difficult thing. A number of things happen without your knowledge. The job is very easy when you are not the one doing it. So I leave it there, and my respect for him will never change.
Okay, well, let me approach the defection from this angle. I understand that a section of the Nigerian constitution sets out the terms for carpet crossing, and those terms include, the party that you're leaving being split at the federal or the state level. What is it that the APC or the PDP has done that justifies the split? I mean, there is no split, is there? There's no split on the state level, there is no split on the federal level.
I've not seen any constitutional breach on my defection, so it's difficult to answer you. If you show me one constitutional breach, then I'll be able to answer that question. But you see, the Constitution defined how a governor can leave office. And so unless that happens, no governor leaves office.
We're talking about defections.
What's the section of the Constitution that talks about defection of governors? Then I can answer you.
Okay, well, let's not beat a dead horse there. Let me ask you this about your time as governor of Ebonyi State. I mean, you've been a governor for 2 terms. There's been a lot of talk about the things that you've done whilst you were governor. Tell us about your projects and what you would say that you've achieved in that time.
The most important achievement of mine, I can say, is the aspect of human empowerment. I've been able to remove a lot of politicians from being acute politicians to being contractors. This is very important. Be business people, this is very important. The widows we have looked after, should be one of my achievements. And every month we set out about 50 million through the religious leaders to go down to the rural areas and identify the poor of the poor. Sometimes 5,000 naira could just lead somebody to death. Sometimes 2,000 naira could not allow somebody to achieve, his or her destiny. And this is what we are doing every month through Father Abraham Wale at the rural areas. This is, for me, very important. When you talk about concrete roads that we've achieved over 1,000 kilometers, both federal, state, and local government roads, it goes with the job. You talk about multiple flyovers. We have over 15 flyovers now in Ebonyi State and about 4 that are ongoing. It goes with the job. You talk about the biggest mall in Africa that is about 95% done. It goes with the job. You talk about fountains scattered all over the state. It talks about the airport that is going to be the largest airport in this country. That is ongoing. It goes with the job. You talk about the center of excellence that is the medical college we are building, which is going to be the biggest in Africa. It goes with the job. Time will fail me to tell you what is going on in terms of what God is doing, but I call it explosive miracles in the land of Ebonyi. Ebonyi State has turned to a construction site. How that happening, I do not know, but I know that the hands of God are upon this state, and no man can distract this state. And God is on the throne, and we have a pact with God, and God is very faithful. And so it's something that you can come and see. When I invite journalists to come and I say, take 7 days, they say 14 days cannot happen for all your projects. But in all local government areas, in the spirit of equity, fairness, and justice, we are just developing Ebonyi State. And I can rightly say, with all glory to God, that Ebonyi is the fast-growing economy in the whole Nigeria.
Well, in fairness to you, I have read some glowing reports about what you are said to have done in Ebonyi State, but I am curious because obviously you've done those things as the governor of your state, and you've also got other brother governors across the southeast, and I'm wondering why 5 of you have never really got together to try and collectively develop the southeast zone without necessarily, you know, banging on about marginalization at the federal level. I mean, people would argue that going through the southeast, the evidence isn't seen quite as clearly what it is that all the 5 governors have done to develop that region without, I mean, the issue of marginalization coming into it, because they get their allocations and they have the executive power to make a difference there.
You see, I suffered what the other governors are suffering until some media people came together to showcase what you are doing. I can tell you that other governors of Southeast are extremely developing their places. Just the other day we were going to Port Harcourt. The governor of Abia State intentionally took us off the road and took us through, you know, the rural areas. From there we bought Sataba. From there we went through Fox Road. And I saw not less than 100 kilometers, some on concrete roads, some on asphalt, and yet people will write rubbish about him. The truth is that people darken counsel without knowledge. The Enugu governor is doing tremendously very well. You know, Hope Uzodinma had just started, and he's dealing with Julius Berger. He just awarded 100 kilometers of, you know, road. In Southeast, we are not talking about federal road or state road. We are just working and developing. The Anambra governor is also very wonderful. You know, they may not be building as many flyovers and building, but they are definitely doing other things better than myself. But seriously, we are being demarketed, and this is very unfortunate. Even myself, go to social media, you see all kinds of attack, you know. So, but we are very focused. We are all together. We are united in development of this, you know, place. You see, if you go to Anambra, you suffer a lot of erosion. You go to Imo, a lot of erosion. You go to Abia, the same thing. And so when these things are being done, you know, nobody remembers them. Nobody believed that these things were impossible. You know, when a woman is having a, you know, a pregnancy and is about to deliver, the woman goes through a lot of pains. But when the woman has delivered, she tends to forget the pains. That is the problem with our country. We definitely do not remember where we're coming from. The moment the road is started, they will not remember. So I can tell you, you know, in a testimony form that our governors are doing very wonderful, but they are being demarketed. Some politicians have made themselves out to make sure they're demarketed, believing that that is the only way they will take their positions. But we are running our destinies. God is in charge.
Well, just going back to you and your achievements, which from what I understand and from what you've said appear to be considerable, given all that you've done, apparently in Ebonyi State, if the people of Ebonyi State came together and urged you to run for president in 2023, would you oblige them?
Again, we could say that the voice of the people is the voice of God. But it is not just about my state coming to tell me to run for presidency. Presidency is for the entire 36 and FCT. And so I think that God will take that decision. If you give me the opportunity, I want to resign from politics 2023. I think I've done what God wants me to do. If God has another assignment, God will implement it by himself. So I struggle for nothing. And so I am happy being governor for 8 years. I'm happy with what God has used us to do in Ebonyi State. And so for those who still play politics and all their life is in politics, that's not me. I'm cut out for business. I'm cut out for engineering. I'm cut out for practical things. And I will be happy being consultant to the incoming governors.
Would you be happy or satisfied if Nigeria's next president is chosen because he or she is the best without paying attention to their place of origin? Or do you think that an Igbo president in 2023 is indispensable to national unity in Nigeria?
It doesn't matter, what the position of the country will be. Anywhere I am, I will continue to say, for fairness, equity, and justice, allow Southeast to take, a shot at presidency. Whether I'm in APC or PDP, I will continue to say that. And the people I'm meeting in APC, they know that I'm a man that is very straight. I don't double talk. I say things the way they are. But it's not do or die. It is dialogue, it is appeal, it is negotiation. These are the ingredients of democracy. And I think we deploy all that, to appeal to the nation Nigeria, to allow a Southeast person, to fly the tickets of the major political parties.
Just a question about what you said a few minutes ago, because I'm just wondering if, and we want to be very clear on what your position is, Governor. Are you ruling yourself out of the presidential race in 2023? Or are you waiting to hear the voice of God to run in 2023?
Both positions, are right. I rule myself out, not only out of the presidency in 2023, but also out of politics. But I never created myself. I'm a pencil in the hand of God. If God says otherwise, you cannot stop your destiny. God will still make it to work. That's my position.
And do you think, Governor, because of course the debate is still raging across this country, do you think Nigeria is ready for an Igbo president? Is that why there's hesitation on the part of the PDP, for example, to zone the presidency to the southeast?
When God says yes, nobody can say no. Everybody is under the authority of the Almighty God. It is just at, when the time, of a testimony has not come, before it will not come to pass. So I refer to God in all things, because every reasonable person in this country, knows that God is the utmost, and that God gives us breath, and that we cannot do without him.
There is, of course, a noticeable unpredictability to politics in Nigeria, isn't there? We all know that very little is predictable about tickets in Nigeria, and that goes for the way political parties go about choosing their candidates as well.
Well, I have told you I'm not a politician, so I don't know what they do and how they do their choosing. But I believe in the powers of God, that God rules in the affairs of men. And so when God, time to take decision comes, he will take decision. He brought Obasanjo from prison to become president. Who would ever think about that? The man would be yearning for freedom, but that is the destiny God has made for him. So let's leave it at that. I think I'm not a politician, and you've taxed me so much. You don't care if I go to, drink water.
Well, I have to say that we are hugely appreciative of the time that you've given us. And it's almost over. We've got less than 5 minutes, and then you can drink as much water as you want. But we do appreciate the fact that you've spoken to us so candidly and so forthrightly. But if, Governor, you don't get the presidential ticket yourself, because there's been a lot of speculation that you may well be aiming, or at least others might be aiming for you to get that ticket. If you don't get that presidential ticket and it goes to another Igbo man, for instance, how would you react to that? Would that satisfy your craving for justice in Nigeria?
If you understood me very well, you should know that I told you that I am not, doing what I'm doing because I want to fly the ticket. Every man is on his destiny. And so if another person gets this ticket, it doesn't matter where the person is coming from. If it's another Igbo man, I will be a very happy person because I can say that God has used me, to lay this foundation. This is very important. And so how can you say it must be you when God has not designed it for you or for this person or for this person? And so we cannot start with God and then we end up in the flesh. It's not, God forbid. So any other person could get the ticket, that God has destined, for that.
Okay, well, I really appreciate the time you've given us. And just before you go, Governor, one final question. Now that you've jumped the political fence, as it were, what are your expectations from the APC?
Well, I believe that APC does more consultation. I believe that, and anybody can, controvert this, that PDP working committee is being remote controlled. And that is the truth. And that is very dangerous. And all the governors, they know that. I remember when I was sent to go and conduct election in Bayelsa, where there is a sitting governor, and somebody wants me to work against the sitting governor. I said, no, I'm a man of integrity. I will not work for the governor. I will not work for anybody. I work for God. I'll put my hands straight and clean. And somebody was not happy. And that is very unfair. You cannot stay in your state and then you'll be remote controlling other states. So I think APC has a better formidable, party platform that they engage their members, Where there are two or three, even the tongue and the teeth, they do disagree. But a situation in which the working committee is being remote controlled is very unfortunate and it's not acceptable. And I want to tell you that unless that changes, you will see a lot of governors still leaving the party.
Governor David Umahi, I want to thank you exceedingly for your patience and for the time that you've given us. Thank you very much indeed.